الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. والنازعات غرقا والناشطات نشطا والسابحات سبحا فالسابقات سبقا فالمدبرات أمرا يوم ترجف الراجفة تتبعها الرادفة قلوب يومئذ واجفة أبصارها خاشعة يقولون أئنا لمردودون في الحافرة أئذا كنا عظاما نخرة قالوا تلك إذا كرة خاسرة فإنما هي زجرة واحدة فإذا هم بالساهرة هل أتاك حديث موسى إذ ناداه ربه بالوادي المقدس طوى اذهب إلى فرعون إنه طغى فقل هل لك إلى أن تزكى وأهديك إلى ربك فتخشى فأراه الآية الكبرى فكذب وعصى ثم أدبر يسعى فحشر فنادى فقال أنا ربكم الأعلى فأخذه الله نكال الآخرة والأولى إن في ذلك لعبرة لمن يخشى أأنتم أشد خلقا أم السماء بناها رفع سمكها فسواها وأغطش ليلها وأخرج ضحاها والأرض بعد ذلك دحاها أخرج منها ماءها ومرعاها والجبال أرساها متاعا لكم ولأنعامكم فإذا جاءت الطامة الكبرى يوم يتذكر الإنسان ما سعى وبرزت الجحيم لمن يرى الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. يوم يتذكر الإنسان ما سعى وبرزت الجحيم لمن يرى فأما من طغى وآثر الحياة الدنيا فإن الجحيم هي المأوى وأما من خاف مقام ربه ونهى النفس عن الهوى فإن الجنة هي المأوى يسألونك عن الساعة أيان مرساها فيما أنت من ذكراها إلى ربك منتهاها إنما أنت منذر من يخشاها كأنهم يوم يرونها لم يلبثوا إلا عشية أو ضحاها. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Assalamu alaikum. Please do not leave. We have a family night tonight. Really important topic for Zakat. Perfect timing. Ramzan is coming up. I'm sure you all wanted to know what's your right of Zakat that you need to give out. So tonight is that was the topic is. That's what they're gonna cover today. Another quick announcement is we are selling dates. Alhamdulillah, we have acquired a really high quality date at very good price. So we are selling at the moment outside. It's a 4-pound bag for $30 and 11-pound bag for $55. So please grab one as you are leaving. Two more announcements. Two of our big events are coming up. First week of Ramzan start. The first event that we have is Interfaith Iftar. We are selling ticket for it. It's a ticketed event. Wonderful food. You will be able to meet with a lot of dignitaries here. All your congressmen, police chief, everybody will be here, inshallah. So you will be able to meet with all those guys. Please purchase tickets. We have limited seats, limited tickets to sell. So please purchase one as soon as possible. You can purchase tickets online. See me. If you wanted to purchase ticket, you can purchase these tickets from kiosk. Second is our fundraising event, which is the February 28th, Saturday. Really important event. Please purchase tickets for that. We will expect all the community members to participate in it. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. We're going to go ahead and get started. Just a quick, brief introduction. We're incredibly honored to have, of course, Shaykh Umer Khan here with us. When it comes to the topic of zakat, it's rare to find someone who's mastered both the traditional and modern aspects of wealth as deeply as he has. Shaykh Umer is not only a qualified mufti and executive member of the Fiqh Council of North America, but he also holds a master's in finance from the Wharton School of Business. And he currently serves as a Sharia advisor for numerous financial institutions and zakat funds, bridging the gap between sacred law and complex modern finance. So please join me in welcoming Shaykh Umer Khan.
Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Assalamu alaikum. For those that are here on a Friday night, may Allah reward you for spending, after a long week at work or business or school, you're coming here to learn about a pillar of our deen. May Allah reward you tremendously for that. So I'm going to try and keep things simple and brief, but I do want to provide you some framework in thinking about how to approach zakat. And then after we're done with that, inshallah, I'm going to try and breeze through some of the topics, and then you can ask any questions that you may have. So the agenda for today, really just talk about zakat briefly, its importance briefly. Who needs to pay zakat? When is it due? This is the key. What do you pay zakat on? And what do you not pay zakat on? So I want to spend really time on this. This is probably the most confusing topic to people when we talk about stocks and when we talk about 401k and we talk about businesses. So I want to spend really time on this. And then how do you do the math on that, and how do you distribute zakat? Okay. So again, I'm going to try and zoom through some of the easy topics and really focus on what do we pay zakat on, what do we not pay zakat on. So zakat itself, we know linguistically means to increase, or it means to purify. Before zakat was instituted, this was like the linguistic meaning of the word zakat. By the way, when was zakat instituted? When did that happen in history? Any guesses, any thoughts? It was before the time of Umar radiallahu anhu. Any other? Before Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. He had to go fight people who weren't paying zakat. But like when did it really happen? Anyone? The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Okay. Any other opinions? Zakat, then why does Allah say in the Quran about Ismail alayhi salam, وَكَانَ يَأْمُرُ أَهْلَهُ بِالصَّلَاةِ وَالزَّكَاةِ? Why does Isa alayhi salam say, when he was in the cradle, that I've been advised to teach you about zakat and salah? So zakat is not something that's new and unique to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Islam. It actually started with the time of Ibrahim alayhi salam. All the 5 pillars did. So prayer, zakat, fasting, even Hajj, right? Ibrahim alayhi salam built the Kaaba for Hajj. So all of these things started at the time of Ibrahim alayhi salam and continued through all of the prophets, including the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So anyway, zakat is this mandatory part of our wealth that we have to distribute. But let me ask you this, how is zakat different than sadaqah? What's the difference between sadaqah and zakah? Zakat is mandatory, sadaqah is optional. Okay, any other difference? Yes? There's a set amount that you have to give in zakat, whereas sadaqah you can give however much you want, right? So the main difference is ours, zakat is mandatory, sadaqah is voluntary. Zakat has a fixed amount, sadaqah you can give whatever you want, and then zakat can only be given to specific people, whereas sadaqah can be given for any purpose. Okay. Why we have zakat? I'm going to just do this quickly. Number one, it's a command of Allah that should be enough for us. Allah says, give zakat. We should give zakat. It's a rukun of our religion. It's a pillar. It's an essential of our deen. So obviously we want to obey Allah. Allah says in the Quran, I think 32 times, He mentions things like وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ. Pray and give zakah. وَأَقَامَ الصَّلَاةَ وَآتَى الزَّكَاةَ وَأَقَامُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتَوُا الزَّكَاةَ وَأَقِمْنَا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتِينَا الزَّكَاةَ وَالْمُقِيمِينَ الصَّلَاةَ وَالْمُؤْتُونَ الزَّكَاةَ. Like again and again and again, Allah talks about this. Okay, so it's a very important pillar of Islam. And it purifies our soul. it cleanses our wealth from impurity. Sometimes what happens is when we're working, we're not working very hard. We might be at our job, maybe we slacked off a little bit, maybe we took too long a break, maybe we didn't bring our best attention and focus. And so what we're earning, there might be little elements of haram in there. And zakat purifies that for us. It bridges the gap between the rich and the poor, right? Obviously it achieves this purpose. It makes you feel gratitude for what you have. When you connect with the poor, there's psychological benefits, there's gratitude, there's so much benefit. It removes enmity, jealousy, hatred between the rich and the poor. It really achieves a lot. And then, very importantly, also zakat causes money to move around and get circulated, and it boosts the economy, creates jobs, and provides a lot of benefit from a financial standpoint. So who pays zakat? Who has to pay zakat? Okay, a Muslim who has enough wealth that's above a certain amount called nisab, and one more requirement. So you have to be Muslim, okay? Own or possess a minimum amount, and then the third thing is 1 year must pass after you have that minimum amount. Okay, so the nisab has been moving around like crazy because the minimum amount of wealth that you need to possess is, there's many opinions on this, but one of the opinions is 87 grams or 85 grams. It's about the same amount. And that, as of today, is about $14,000. You know, last year when I came here and I was sitting in the same spot, it was $8,000. So the price of gold moved from $8,000 last year to now $14,000 as of today. So if you have $14,000, and why do we have different amounts? Why is gold, silver, why are they different? At the time of the Prophet ﷺ, it was 20 dinars, which is gold coins, or 200 dirhams. 20 dinars was equal to 200 dirhams, so these amounts were the same. But as time went on, gold increased in price a lot more than silver increased in price. So which one do we go with? There's different opinions. The one I recommend, we go with the gold standard. The gold standard means that if you have $14,000 worth of money, and you've had it for 1 year, now you have to pay zakat. Okay? Now the first time you pay zakat, you pay not just on this, you pay on all of the money that you have, and then you keep doing that every year. We'll get to that in a second. But this is basically nisab. So when is zakat due? What time of the month or year, or when does it become due? As long as you have that amount of money for 1 year. So it's not Muharram, it's not Safar, it's not Ramadan, it's not anything like that. It's just as long as you've had $14,000 for 1 year, that's the first time you pay zakat, okay? Now, before we get into calculating zakat, this is going to be the meat of the conversation. My first question is, what is the percentage zakat that we pay? 2.5%? How do you know that? Okay, mashallah. So the Prophet ﷺ gave us many traditions on this one, many narrations. He said, you know, on 40 sheep, you pay 1 sheep worth of zakat. So 1 over 40 is equal to 2.5%. Everybody knows that. The important point I want to make here is that zakat is not on like 2.5% of your income or your salary or even what you saved this year. Zakat is on 2.5% of everything that you have saved up. So if, let's say, this year I have $20,000 in my bank account, and then I also have, you know, $20,000 worth of gold, I will pay zakat on $40,000. I will pay 2.5% of that. Okay, but this is the interesting concept that I want to get into. I didn't explain it this way last year. I just came up with what I think is a better way to explain this. So if we look at, and this is the part I really want you to pay attention to. Okay, so if you were on your phone or napping or whatever, like this is the time to pay attention because this will be the most important part to understand how zakat works. If you look at all of your wealth, all of your assets, all of your money, and you divide it up, you can divide it into one of these 4 quadrants. It's either personal or it's business. And then it's either productive, I could say unproductive, but I just said idle, okay? It's either productive or it's idle, and it's personal or it's business. What's something that's productive? What's a productive human being? A productive human being provides value to society. They're doing something useful, something beneficial, something that provides value. Similarly, the money that we have, when it's providing benefit, when it's providing value of some sort, then it's deemed to be productive. But the money that we have, if it's idle, okay, that means it's not providing any value to anybody. So what does this mean? Actually, this is the way economists divide wealth. If you've studied economics, you will study that the money that you have can either be productive or it can be idle. And in fact, Warren Buffett, when he invests, he says, I always invest in productive assets, not in unproductive or idle assets. So let's look at this. So personal productive wealth, what is that? Your house. Or let me just start with like the thobe I'm wearing, okay, right now. This is part of my productive wealth because I wear it. It gives me benefit. It protects me. It covers me, and gives me the ability to go about in society while wearing some clothes. It's productive wealth. My watch, my laptop, my phone. These are all things that I use that provide me value and benefit. Maybe there's something that I wear just because I like it. Maybe there's a ring that I wear. Well, I like it. It provides me value, it provides me benefit, and therefore it's productive wealth. So the house that I live in, it provides value. The furniture that I have in it provides me benefit and value. The car that I drove over here, and the other car that I have at home, which my wife uses, provides benefit and value. The clothing that we have, the jewelry that women wear, okay? We'll get more into jewelry in a second, but generally speaking, the jewelry that women wear, that's going to be productive because they wear it provides value to them and benefit. So that's productive wealth. Then we have idle wealth. Idle wealth is not serving a purpose. If I have cash in my wallet, it's not providing any value yet. Money by its own doesn't provide value. It has to be converted into something else. So cash sitting in my wallet, cash sitting in my bank account, cash sitting in my stock account, cryptocurrency, same thing. If it's just sitting in an account, sitting in my wallet, sitting anywhere else, it's idle. It's not providing any value. Money that people owe me, okay? Gold and silver that I have. So if I have like a gold bar, a gold coin, if I buy like ETF, GLD, anything like that, it's not providing any value yet unless it's used for something else. And then any collectible art that I might buy. So let's say I buy some art, okay, and I expect it to go up in value and it's just sitting in my garage. That is unproductive, idle art. Unless I bought it to put up on the wall in my house, in which case it would be productive. And then money that I owe can be subtracted from all of this. Why have I divided it up this way? Because the way zakat works is zakat is only on the idle wealth that we have. Allah does not expect us, does not need us, and does not mandate zakat for us on anything that we have that's productive. I'm wearing my clothes, I'm using my house, I'm using my car, I'm using my clothes, whatever, all of these things. There is no zakat on those things. There is zakat on things that are idle, that don't provide any economic benefit or value. That's how Allah divided this up. Why? Because on the personal things, I'm already getting value out of them. On the things that aren't providing value, that's where Allah says, you know what, since they aren't providing value, let's take 2.5% of that and make it provide value. The things that are productive are creating impact in society. The things that are not productive, Allah says, let's make them create impact. We'll force it. We'll take 2.5% and we'll put it to use. Same thing on the business side. So on the business side, a building that the business is using, machines that the building is using, intangible assets like brand, like IP, things like that, those are providing value. If I buy a house and I put it out on rent, that provides value to those people renting it. Provides value to me because I get income from it. So I don't have to pay zakat on any of these things. Okay? But a business also has cash. A business may have cryptocurrency. A business may have money owed to it. Those are called receivables. A business has inventory, which is about to get converted into cash, things that you're about to sell, okay? And if you have like real estate that you bought just for like appreciation, it's kind of like a collectible or like a gold or something like that, all of these things you do have to pay zakat on. So as a business, there are things you don't pay zakat on and things that you do pay zakat on. And personally, there's things that you don't pay zakat on and things that you do pay zakat on. Okay, why did I put payables here? Because payables are money that you owe as a business to someone else. So you can subtract that from the total value of like your cash, receivables, inventory, and then you can subtract the payables from that. Okay, So, in summary, all wealth can be divided into beneficial and productive use. These business assets, they create products, they create services, they create jobs. They're creating an impact in society. They're benefiting human beings. Versus assets like cash. Cash just sits there. Okay, it doesn't do anything until you use it. Therefore, you have to pay zakat on it. Okay, so it's actually pretty cool. So what Islam is encouraging us to do is take idle wealth and shift that into productive wealth. And if we don't shift that into productive wealth, then we will be, which creates impact, then you will pay zakat, which will create impact anyway. So all of our money as a Muslim is always creating impact, always providing value, either because we put it in something that creates impact or because we end up paying zakat on it. Okay? So how do we think about zakat? We add up all of these idle things, right? We add up all of these amounts, and then we're able to subtract certain things. What are the things we can subtract? Short-term liabilities, anything that's coming up due in the next 30 days. Rent, utility bills, credit card bills, taxes, any loans, payments due, things like that. We can subtract anything that's coming up in the next 30 days. So at this point, people ask, okay, well, you explained personal, you explained business, how about stocks? How do I treat stocks? Well, the way you look at stocks, there's a fatwa that's published on the Fiqh Council website. You can look up, if you just go to Google and type zakat on stocks, you'll come across that fatwa. But fundamentally, scholars for many decades have divided stocks into really two types. When people buy stocks, they buy them generally for one of these two purposes. Either they are like traders, they're like day traders. They buy and sell stocks. I might buy stocks today and sell it next week, buy stocks next week, sell them the month after, something like that. Those people, they're treating stocks like they are inventory. They're thinking of stocks like inventory. I buy and I sell. Just like I might buy and sell phones, I might buy and sell cars. These people buy and sell stocks as if it's inventory. And so these people, therefore, will pay zakat on stocks on the full value of the stocks. If the stocks are worth $100,000, you're going to pay $2,500 on stocks. Other people, they treat stocks like a long-term investment, like they're a business partner or an owner in that business. And so if they're an owner in that business, they're investors, what we do is we say, you know what, you only have to pay zakat on the cash, receivables, and inventory. You don't have to pay zakat on the buildings and the machinery and intangibles and all of that. Okay? So then people go, okay, well, that's nice, but what do I have to do? Do I have to go find the 10K report of a business and find the balance sheet and do all the math? Like, no, alhamdulillah, there's apps that do this. So the only website I know of right now that's available is zakat.zoya.finance. So you go to this website, it's free, and you say, I own so many shares of NVIDIA or SPUS or whatever. It'll do the math for you. It will tell you how much zakat you have due. They also have an app. If you use the app, it will connect to your stock account and do the math for you. You don't have to do anything. But if you use the website, it's very straightforward. You go and you say, okay, I own this thing, I have this many shares, I'm investing for the long term, and you click go, and it'll do the zakat calculation for you. So to give you an idea of how this works, I actually did some math earlier today. As of today, if, for example, you own $100,000 worth of this ETF called SPUS, if you own $100,000, it turns out that for SPUS, when you do this math over here and you say, I don't care about the buildings, the machines, and the intangible assets and all of this, just tell me what the cash, receivables, and inventory is, what percentage of the company is that, and how much zakat do I have to give? So you use this Zoya tool, and it tells you 8.2% of SPUS is zakatable. 8.2% of $100,000 is going to be the cash, accounts receivable, and inventory, and the total zakat you have to pay is $206. So it just tells you that. It does all the math for you, and it gives you the answer. So if you had $100,000 worth of SPUS, and you were day trading in and out, day trading and buying and selling and buying and selling, the zakat you would pay would be $2,500. But if you are a long-term investor, meaning you're holding the shares for the long term, a year or more, and that's your intent, is you're looking at it as a business, then you don't pay $2,500, you only pay $206. It's a lot less zakat. VOO, which is the S&P 500. Okay, that also includes like about a third of that is like haram stocks. But anyway, if you had that in your 401k or something like that, it's 24% zakatable. So on $100,000, you would pay $598 in zakat. I just picked a random company, NVIDIA, 4.6% zakatable. So you have $100,000 worth of NVIDIA, you would end up paying $115 in zakat. Don't use these exact values, I just did the math today. Whenever your zakat is due, go through and use the tool, and it will tell you how much zakat you have due. So it's a very easy way to figure out how much zakat you have due. How about retirement accounts, 401k, IRA, Roth IRA? Same thing, just use the same tool. It will give you the answer as well. Okay? So how do you, in the end, how do you calculate your zakat? You add up your total zakatable assets that are idle. You don't count your house, you don't count your car, you don't count your clothes. Cash, you look at things that you have like gold and all of that, you add it all up. Don't include the productive assets that you have. Subtract the bills that you have coming up due in the next 30 days. Okay? See if the total amount is at least $14,000. If it's not $14,000, you don't even have to pay zakat. If it's $14,000, then you add up the total amount and then you multiply that by 2.5%, and that is the zakat that you have due. Okay? Yeah. If there's any questions on what to pay zakat on, what not to pay zakat on, or questions on how to do the calculation, please ask that now. Yeah.
What was the calculator again?
The calculator is, you have two options. You can either go to this website, zakat.zoya.finance, or on the App Store, look for Zoya. The reason I'm recommending this is the only one I know that does the stock calculation for free. Okay, so it does it for free, and it makes your life a lot easier. So if you have stocks, you definitely want to use this tool. Any other? Yeah. So.
On the topic of stocks, now you said the nisab is $14,000, right?
Unrelated to stocks, if you have $14,000 worth of wealth, then you will have to pay zakat. Yes.
Is that $14,000 that you have now, or you mentioned the 1 year?
Yeah. So the question is, how does that really work? Okay. In your life, you will start off your life most likely not having $14,000, right? So you maybe have zero. So over time, you get 1,000, you get to 5,000, you get to 6,000. One day you hit 14,000. The day you hit $14,000, you need to write down, okay, that was 4th of Dhul Hijjah, or 3rd of Rabi' al-Awwal, or 17th of Muharram, whatever date that is. You say, okay, the amount of money I have is 14,000 now. You write that date down. That becomes your zakat date. Then the first time you pay zakat is not on that date. The first time you pay zakat is 354 days after that, right? So let's say it was like 3rd of Safar. The next 3rd of Safar is when you pay zakat again. Okay? Now, what do you pay zakat on? You don't just go pay on the 14,000. You add up everything that you have. Like I said, like you go through this formula. You go through and you add up everything, and then you pay all of the idle wealth that you have, and you pay 2.5% of that.
Okay, so
right?
if you had, let's say if you had $100,000 of stocks on last year this date, like February 6th.
Yep.
And now you have $50,000 of stocks.
Yeah, so last year, you on the date, 2nd of Safar, you had $100,000 worth of stocks. Now you're back to 2nd of Safar this year, and now you have $50,000 worth of stocks. So you say, okay, let's say you have $50,000 worth of, SPUS, okay? We're just going to assume that. So what you do is you're going to pay $103 in zakat, because, assuming you're investing for the long term, because that's all you have right now. But if you also had $1,000 in your bank account, you're going to add another, $25 of zakat for that. And then you have, let's say, another $1,000 worth of gold sitting at home. You would add another, $25 of zakat for that. So you add all of these things up, and that's what you pay. And then so every year you just add up and you say, what do I have to pay for this year? You don't worry about 1 year. You don't worry about what happened in the past. That's just the first time. The very first time you have to wait a year. That's when zakat becomes mandatory. But after that, you just pay every year on what you have.
So essentially you're paying zakat on the value you hold.
Yeah, think of it as you're paying zakat on sort of your net worth, but not all of the net worth, because see, Allah is so merciful. All of the attributes of zakat. Number one, imagine if you had to pay zakat on your clothes in your house. Every year you would have to take 2.5% of your house, take some, I don't know, remove some bricks and some walls and things, and give that away as zakat. That would be very problematic. And you would have to take, 1/40th of your clothes, you would have to take your furniture, you would have to give all of that away. If you're running a business and you have like a machine, you would have to figure out how do you take 1/40th of that machine and give that away. So Allah has not instituted zakat on those things that are providing productive value. The other thing is Allah gives us a year. The scholars have discussed why does Allah give a year? The reason Allah gives a year is that 354 days is enough time for people to invest the money and get some returns, get some benefit out of that. So for example, if you have a seasonal business, you have an accounting business, and it shows up at tax time, every year it shows up, in March and April, you're making all of your money. So Allah wants you to be able to get the benefit of that. Or you have a farm, you have fruits, or you have trade, you sell sweaters. Well, sweaters only sell in the winter, or you're selling umbrellas, which only sell at certain time of the year. And so you get a full year to invest that money, benefit from that money, get the returns, and then at the end it says, okay, we're going to take 2.5%. So let's say you invest in something, you make like 10%, and then at the end of the year you look at your wealth and you pay 2.5%. So your net benefit was still 7.5%. But in investments, usually the zakat is less anyway, as we talked about. Any other questions on what to pay zakat on? Sorry? It's neither the market value, not the market value was 100,000. So if you're a day trader, you're going to be paying $2,500, right? Yeah. Neither, if you're a long-term investor, you're paying neither on the market value of the stock nor on the cost. What you're paying on is the certain aspects of the book value of the stock, which is only equal to the cash, the receivables, and the inventory. It's a very low amount. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So the question becomes, how do you treat jewelry? So first of all, let's start with the fact that if you bought jewelry as an investment, so this is something I didn't talk about. Sometimes we buy a car to drive it. Sometimes we might buy a car because it's a classic car and we're investing in it and we want to sell it later. We might buy art to put it on the wall, or we might buy art because it's an investment. You might buy a Rolex because you want to wear it, or you might buy Rolex because you want to invest in the Rolex. So if you're buying it for wearing, you don't have to pay zakat on it. If you're buying it for investment, then you do have to pay zakat on it because it's sitting there idle. It's not doing anything. What if you're doing both? What if I buy a Rolex because I want the value to go up as an investment and I want to wear the Rolex at the same time? So I have two intentions. So is it productive or is it idle? Well, I'm wearing it, but also I bought it for investment. So then we look at our intention and we study our intention carefully. We say, Allah, why did I really buy this? What's my 51% intention? What's my majority intention? If the intention is for investment purposes, then you pay zakat on it. If the intention majority is for wearing or use purposes, then you don't pay zakat on it. So you have to question yourself, which one is it for? So jewelry is interesting. For sure, if you bought the jewelry as an investment, you think of the jewelry as a value and money, and that's why you bought the jewelry, you will definitely pay zakat on it, okay? But what if I bought the jewelry not as an investment because I want to, but because I want to wear the jewelry? This is for women, obviously. Men are not going to be wearing much in terms of jewelry, and they can't wear gold and silver anyway. So what if I buy the jewelry and it's for wearing purposes? Well, first of all, there's some difference of opinion there. When it comes to the gold and the silver in the jewelry, even if you buy it for wearing, the difference is that those that come from the Hanafi madhab, they say that you should pay zakat on it. You pay zakat on it anyway. The Shafi'is, the Malikis, and most of the Hanbalis, they said, no, it's for wearing. Why should you pay zakat on it? You shouldn't have to pay zakat on it, okay? So they differed in that. There's a difference of opinion there. What do I follow? I think the majority here, they're treating the jewelry as something that you wear, something that you're using. That's the opinion that I follow. But either opinion that you want to follow is fine. The reason that the Hanafis, they said, look, gold at the time when the Hanafi method was being developed, gold was like money. So imagine in today's world that I took $100 bills and I wore them as jewelry. I wear like a necklace, and I put like $100, $100, right? That would be really weird. You know, people don't usually put dollar bills as jewelry. But let's say I did that. You would look at me and you would say, what are you doing? And I would say, oh, I'm wearing, you know, my dollar bills around me because I wear it as jewelry. I don't have to pay zakat on it. And they would say, no, you're being silly. You're just trying to cheat. You don't want to pay zakat. That's why you're doing this. So they looked at gold as money. So they said, even if the gold is in jewelry and even if you wear it, the Hanafi said you should pay zakat on it. So that's a difference of opinion. But the majority of the scholars, they said that you do not have to pay zakat on jewelry, because just like a man can wear a Rolex or they can have you know, art on the wall, or they can have a classic car as a collectible, if a woman got the jewelry for wearing purposes, then she doesn't have to pay zakat on it. Now, what if you don't actually wear it? You bought it for wearing, your intention is for wearing, but you only wear it like maybe once every 10 years. Fine. Your intention is for wearing. What if I have 10, you know, pieces of clothes in my closet, right? I have 10 thobes, and I wear 8 of them, and 2 of them just sit there. You know, sometimes you buy something and you think you're going to wear it, and then you don't wear it, and you think, oh, I'll wear it next month, but then you still don't. Okay, maybe I'll wear it later, and then eventually you never wear it. Okay, fine, but you bought it for wearing. So as long as your intention for the jewelry is for wearing, then you don't have to pay zakat, according to the Shafi'is, Malikis, and most of the Hanbalis. What if your intention is mixed and you don't? What if your intention is mixed? Go with the majority intention. What if you don't know? Well, figure it out, right? Is it really for wearing, or is it really for some other purpose? Same for real estate, yes. It goes by intention. So if you bought the real estate because it's a house that you want to live in, then you don't have to pay zakat on it, okay? So can I have a really big house and not pay zakat on it? Yeah, you can have a really big house. Maybe Allah will question you and say you're doing israf and tabzeer and you're being excessive and extravagant and you're wasting money. So maybe there will be sin for wasting money, but you don't have to pay zakat on it because that house is for your personal use. What if I have a zakat? What if I have a house in my home state and then I have a vacation home? That's fine. You know, it's yours as well. What if I have a house in another country that I sometimes go live in? Fine. It's still your personal house. What if I have land for personal use? Again, you don't pay zakat on it. That I plan to build a house on in the future for myself? Yeah, I don't pay zakat on that. So anything that you have for personal use, real estate, you will not pay zakat on it. If you bought the house as a rental property, you bought the house and you want to rent it out, you haven't started renting it out, but you want to rent it out, that was your intention, you don't have to pay zakat on it, because what happens is it's like a machine in a business. That house is there because it's going to generate returns for you. It's like a machine. It makes something for you. It makes money for you. And then, so you don't have to pay zakat on that. As the cash comes in from the rentals, that cash will get added to your bank account. Some cash will go for property tax and insurance and repairs. Some cash will come in as rent. Over time, that cash will accumulate in your bank account, and your zakat due date, you will end up paying zakat on that. But you don't pay zakat on the rental house. If you buy a house for flipping it or for appreciation, and that's your intention, I am buying this house because I want the value to go up, and then I will sell the house, that house now becomes like inventory. Now you have to pay full 2.5% zakat on the entire value of the house. Okay, so everything is kind of this way. Like if you have a horse and you want to ride the horse, you don't pay zakat on it. You buy the horse, you have the horse because you're renting it out, okay, you don't have to pay zakat on it. But you buy the horse because you want to sell horses, you pay zakat on the full 2.5%. Okay? Yeah. You bought the house because you want to live in it, and then later you change your mind and you now want to sell it. Okay? So it depends. Like if you bought the house to live in it, as long as you have the house to live in it, you're not paying zakat on it. If at some point you decide, you know what, now I'm going to treat it as an investment property, and from that point on, if your zakat due date hits, then yes, you will have to pay zakat on it. Yeah.
So the gold or silver, it's going to be the current price or the price you buy? So the price.
Yeah. The question is, the gold and silver, is it going to be the current price or the price that you bought it at? Zakat is always paid on the current market value of the things that you have to pay zakat on. And so if it's investment property, for example, you look at the current market value. If it's gold, you look at the current value of gold if you're going to pay zakat on gold. If it's any of these things, if it's cryptocurrency, you look at the current value in dollars of the cryptocurrency. Can you pay zakat in cryptocurrency? Yes, you can pay zakat in cryptocurrency as well.
Like if we follow Imam Abu Hanifa, but when it comes to the jewelry which women wear, and we just jump, okay, we're going to follow the other Imam,
Yeah.
and then jump back.
Okay. So the question is, if you generally follow the Hanafi madhab, generally, okay, and then what, and you say, you know what, but for gold jewelry, I'm going to follow someone else, and then for everything else, I'm going to follow Imam Abu Hanifa. Okay? What happens in that situation? Okay. So some people, in fact, most people in the world, when they follow a madhab, they follow that madhab because culturally they grew up in that madhab. You know, I'm born in this country, and that's what we follow, and that's what we learn, so that's what we follow. Okay, fine. And you may not be very strict about it. You're just like, that's what I learned. So you go to your imam, you ask questions, whatever. You don't ask your imam, like, oh, what madhab do you have? You just say, hey, what's the answer to this question? Maybe you come to the masjid, maybe the masjid follows Shafi'i Asr time. And you're like, okay, I'll just follow that time because that's what the community follows. So you're not very strict about the madhab. Then for these issues, what you do is you just ask your imam or local scholar, and whatever they suggest, you go with that, no problem. But if you're someone who really, really believes, look, I have to follow a madhab, you know, and then, and that's how you follow, then yeah, maybe you can do that. But if you're like, look, I'm just going to follow whatever people are doing, whatever the imam is doing, whatever the scholar says, and this idea of like, yeah, it makes sense to me that if I have a Rolex that I wear, I don't have to pay zakat. If I have jewelry I wear, I don't have to pay zakat. That's what I want to follow, no problem, okay? It's not a problem, you're not committing a sin, anything like that. But if you're like, man, I'm really, really, really Hanafi, and I always follow Hanafi, but on this one issue, I just don't want to pay zakat, that would be a problem, right?
At the start of the year, you have 20,000 or 30,000, but when the zakat time comes, then you have to pay the current money you have, like you
Yes.
gold, you have silver, you have stock, you have crypto.
Yeah. So you started the money, you started the year, your zakat year, you only had 20,000, but you end the year on the same due date with $100,000. You have some gold, some stocks, some money, some this and that. You pay zakat on the 100,000. Yeah.
What about the land? You have land you bought for investment.
You have land that you bought for investment, you're going to pay 2.5% of the land value. If you have land that you bought for just yourself, to build your own house, then you don't have to pay zakat on it.
For example, you have land you bought for investment, but you don't have money.
Okay. What if you bought something and that has as an investment, and you need to pay zakat on it now, but you don't have the cash to pay the zakat? In that case, what you can do is you can write down somewhere, I owe Allah this much money, you know, I owe this zakat. So eventually when you get the cash, then you can pay it, inshallah. So Allah doesn't want to burden anyone more than they can bear. Sometimes your money gets stuck somewhere in an investment and you are not able to, like you can't sell off just a piece of 2.5% of the land and pay zakat. So what you do is you just write that down, and in the future, inshallah, when you can pay it, then you can take care of it.
In terms of investment, just on the subject of land, so say you bought a piece of land and you made a down payment on it, and you bought it in 2025. The value of the land was 100,000. You paid 25,000 as a down payment, and the following year it's $200,000. So how much zakat are you responsible for?
If you own the land, and depends on how the down payment works, okay? So the question is, what if you made a down payment on a land and then it was worth X, and then a year later it's worth Y, and it's worth more? So if the down payment is truly a down payment and the 100% of the deed and the title has been transferred in your name, then you're going to pay on 100% of the current value of the land. So you're going to pay on the new value, the current value on the date of the zakat. If the down payment was not actually a down payment, but you only got to own, let's say, like 20% of the land, and someone else's name is also on the deed and they own 80%, you own 20%, then you would only pay on 20% of the value. So it just depends on, is the down payment actually like a real down payment and you own the deed 100%, you pay on whatever you own as the And if there's debt that you minus it, yeah. The amount of nisab is 85 grams versus 87 grams. Yes, it's roughly the same in all madhahib. There's not a difference. There is debate over if we should take the 20 dinars or 200 dirhams. Should we follow the gold or the silver? And living in America, you know, if you compare the gold versus silver, right? If you compare the gold versus silver nisab, gold is $14,000, silver is $1,500. $1,500 really feels like it's nothing. You know, so $14,000 seems to make more sense. So someone who has, again, you will hear different opinions on this. Many of the scholars, Shaykh Yusuf Qaradawi and others have proposed to follow the gold standard, and I propose we follow the gold standard as well. So I said on 401k and IRA, just follow the same methodology, right? I said use this, use the tool, the Zoya app, and put in whatever tickers you have in there, and it will do the math for you. And you'll end up with something like, you know, something like this, where you have maybe a few $100s due on every $100,000. It's a very small amount of zakat that you have to pay. Yes, you have to pay zakat on 401k, absolutely. There is an opinion that states that any investment account is not zakatable? There's an opinion that any investment is not zakatable until sale? Okay, it's a very rare opinion with a very minority, yes. Mhm. Okay, to follow which opinion? Is this for personal or endowment? Okay, so the question is, how does an endowment work? Well, an endowment or a waqf in Islam is not wealth that belongs to an individual anymore. It's actually, it's money set aside for a purpose. So you say, hey, I'm investing $100,000 in this land or this house or these stocks or whatever, but I don't own this money anymore. I have given it away into this waqf, and this waqf operates as an independent identity. It's its own entity.
So you're saying the waqf is not zakat?
No, because a waqf is something that that nobody has to pay zakat on, because nobody owns that wealth. It's wealth that you've given away already. Since you have no ownership of it, how are you going to pay zakat? No single person owns it. Zakat has to be on an individual, has to be on a person, right? And so there will be no zakat on a waqf at all. And particularly, like, I mean, and also if you're an endowment, you're generally going to be a non-profit status. You're not going to have any capital gains tax. So it actually becomes a zakat-free and a tax-free. That money is going to continue, and income from that will be used for whatever purpose the waqf was designated for. As an individual, you will find all kinds of opinions on investments and 401ks and all this stuff. The opinions that I'm sharing with you here are like the opinions that like 98% of the ummah follows, right? So I'm part of the Fiqh Council of North America, and I also participate in Islamically Muslim Jurists of America. And both of those councils, those are the two largest fiqh councils in the country, have declared that there's zakat on 401k and IRS, for example, or any investment accounts. You pay zakat on it like you would on a business. And so that's what the opinions I'm giving you are, like sort of the 98% opinion. Be very careful if you're going to follow an opinion that only like 2% of the scholars follow. So something that I did, I actually wrote and drafted the stocks, the zakat on stocks fatwa for the Fiqh Council. And something I did was I actually called up all of my colleagues around the world. So I called up, you know, all the experts in finance, and said, hey, what do you think about this opinion? They said, I agree. Okay, what do you think? I agree. So it's something that people who deal in this field, like who work in this field, we all came up with together. And it's something where it's the vast majority, again, 98% opinion. So it's safer to follow a 98% opinion. It's always a little bit dangerous when you're going to go with the fatwa that's 2%. Again, if something's intellectually appealing to you, you can follow that. I'm just saying it's safer to follow the experts in the field who have specialized in an area. Shaykh Uthaymeen was not a specialist in this area. Without due respect to him, he's an amazing scholar, and he was our senior.
So, for example, today you calculated the gold, silver, stocks, whatever you have
Okay, so let's say you do the math, because the math you're going to do on how much zakat to pay is based on market values today, and what your bank balance is today, and or whatever your due date is, right? What's the bank balance? What's my stock account? How many shares do I own of this? How much dividends did I get? All of this stuff. You add all of that up. So whenever your zakat due date is, that's the day you do the math, okay? Or maybe a day or two after, it doesn't matter, or a day before, something like that. But around that due date is when you do the math. Once you've done all the math, that's what's due. The values may go up and down, they may change, whatever. Values are always changing, but we don't worry about that. Once you've done the math, that's what's due. And then you try and give that away as soon as possible. Other questions?
What references do you have for, what's eligible or what qualifies to, things like your 4 quadrants you had?
Yes.
Do you have the references for it? Or
References meaning?
like, like you were mentioning idle income versus, productive income.
Mm-hmm.
What are your references for all that information?
What is my references for all of this information, like from the Quran and Sunnah? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, this is directly from Quran and Sunnah. So the Quran doesn't describe it, the Sunnah doesn't describe it as productive and idle. But what we understand from reading all of the hadith is we can see clearly zakat is not on personal assets. Zakat is not on a business, except they say mal nami. It's on anything that's urud tijara. So it's on inventory, and then it's on the money that you have. So all of this is taken directly from Quran and Sunnah. Like I would have to bring like a few dozen different ahadith. Yeah. This 2x2 grid doesn't come from hadith, but every single item that's on here is derived from the hadith. And then again, all of these things are agreed upon across all of the 4 madhahib, by Ibn Taymiyyah, by Ibn Hazm, by all of the different people who follow madhab, people who don't follow madhab, etc. The difference of opinion here that I pointed out was on jewelry. Other than this idea of jewelry, nothing else on this slide is a difference of opinion. So it consists of the 4 madhahib, the Quran, Sunnah, anyone who's Ahlul Hadith, Salafi, whatever, Zahiri, all of this is going to be exactly the same. The difference is going to be in the jewelry.
I was just wondering if there were any books on this or interpretation of the
Yeah, books. I mean, there's a lot of books you can follow. Shaykh Yusuf Qaradawi has a really good book on fiqh al-zakah. There's a zakat guide written by Mufti Faraz Adam, which is really awesome. It's available for free online as well. A number of different books you can read on this. The final topic here was just distribution of zakat, and I'm not going to go through all of the detail. I'm just going to blow up the slide here so you can see. But the main concept that I want to talk about is this idea that zakat only goes to 8 specific categories. The most important of these categories are, Allah says in the Quran in Surah At-Tawbah, that it's going to go to the fuqara and the masakin. Now, what's a faqir and what's a miskin? What's the difference? Okay, there's some difference of opinion. What's the difference of opinion? Some people say the faqir is the one who has no money, and the miskin is the one who has a little bit of money. And some people say the miskin is the one who has no money, and the faqir is the one who has a little bit of money. Okay, so same thing, right? It doesn't matter which one you think is which, but the idea is these are people who are below nisab. These are people who are below nisab, and that's the most important category of zakat. Many of the other categories of zakat are not really available today. Like we don't have slaves to free, we don't have zakat collectors for the state anymore, things like that. So the most important ones are specific categories. These are people below nisab. And so generally speaking, we're trying to find people who don't have nisab, but there's also people, another category that might be important is people who are in debt. People who are in debt. So they may have wealth, but it's category number 6, but they have a tremendous amount of debt and they're struggling to pay it off. Not someone who has a mortgage on their house and they're making their payments, not that. They are just stuck in debt and they don't know how to get out of it. So that would be category number 6. That would be another important one to give to. And then we prioritize family first, okay? Those who are near to us. Those that are near are of 2 types. Near in relationships, which is family, and those that are geographically close to us. Because if we don't give to our community, for example, in Corona here, well, no one from Palestine is going to send money here. Okay, it's never going to happen. But someone from here keeps sending money to Palestine, that's fine, but make sure you're taking care of your local community. So when it comes to family, can you give zakat to your children? No, why not? They're your responsibility anyway. Can you give zakat to your parents? No, because they're a responsibility. Grandchildren, same thing. Grandparents, same thing. Can you give zakat to your wife? No, because she's your responsibility to take care of. Can the wife give zakat to the husband? Anyone disagree? Okay, so interestingly enough, there's a difference of opinion here, because the Hanafis say if the wife gives zakat to the husband and then the husband uses that money to spend on the wife, that's cheating. What are you doing? Like you're responsible for her, she gives you the zakat, then you use it on her, that's cheating. The Shafi'is, Malikis and Hanbalis say it's okay. Okay, so there's some difference of opinion on that, so be careful if the wife is going to give zakat to the husband, but you can give zakat to your cousins, your nephews, your uncles, your nieces, your second cousins, your third cousins, and if you're not taking care of your family, who will? Your family has a greater right upon you than anyone else. So give zakat to the family, give zakat to the local area, and then give zakat to the other causes. Okay. Other things, when you give zakat, you must give it with the intention of giving zakat. And you can't say, oh, I gave money last month, I didn't realize I was giving it for zakat, I was giving it as sadaqah. Let me change my intention now. No, you can't change your intention. Once you gave the zakat, it's a zakat. If you gave it not as zakat, then it's not zakat. Yes. Do you need to tell them it's zakat? No. You don't need to tell them. Sometimes people might get offended. Oh, I'm giving you money. Oh, I'm giving you zakat. Some people get offended. So exercise wisdom. Don't tell them, oh, I'm giving you charity. I'm giving you zakat. I'm giving you sadaqah. Just give them the money. Okay. Paying zakat in increments. Can you pay zakat? What if you don't want to give someone all of the money at once? Yeah, you can give it in installments. No problem. Can you pay zakat in advance? Yes. You can pay zakat in advance. So what I have zakat due next year, I can start estimating what it might be, and I can start paying zakat now. But some scholars say don't give more than 1 year in advance. So they say don't give more than 1 year, that's too much. Maybe give less than 1 year or less than that. Can you make up for past zakat because you just found out that you now have to pay zakat on something that you didn't know you have to pay zakat on? Yeah, that's fine. Well, what value do you pay on? Do you pay on today's value? No, you pay on the value when it was due. So let's say you had gold. Okay, you had a certain amount of gold, and today that's worth like $10,000, but last year it was worth like $6,000. Okay, and you didn't pay zakat last year. Well, just pay zakat on the 6,000, 2.5% of 6,000. And then, what if you gave zakat to somebody who wasn't eligible for zakat? What do? Well, if you did it out of ignorance, no problem. Ask Allah for forgiveness. But if you did it and you knew you were giving it to the wrong person, then you have to give zakat again because you didn't do it properly the first time. Okay? And that's all I have. I have my contact information up here if you want to email me or hit me up on Instagram or something. I'll be happy to answer your questions. If you email me once and I don't respond, please just email a second time. Sometimes I get behind. But if you have any questions, please feel free to follow up. But yeah, I can also answer questions now.
It says like when you have certain level of money, then you will pay zakat. Does it say that if the needs are bad, I mean some people they have haram money?
Oh, how about haram money?
Because since childhood we are hearing that if you have haram in your belly, the prayer is not acceptable for 40 days.
Mm-hmm.
If that's true, then how the zakat is going to work on haram money?
How does zakat work on haram money? There's no zakat on haram money, actually. You have to pay 0% zakat on haram money. Why? Because the entire money is haram. You have to give 100% of it away. Okay, so if I have $100 that I got, let's say I have a bank account, okay, and for some reason I tried to work with my bank and say, please don't pay me interest, don't give me riba. But they didn't listen to me and they keep giving me interest. And so they gave me, let's say, $10 in January, $10 in February, $10 in March, and the whole year goes by, and now I've collected $120 in interest in my bank account. On that $120, I don't pay any zakat. I don't pay 2.5% zakat. On that $120, what I'm supposed to do is take that $120 and give that away to charity. Because the Prophet ﷺ was reported to have said in an authentic hadith in Sahih of Ibn Hibban, he said that when you accidentally earn haram money, give it all away and don't expect reward for it. Don't expect any reward for it, but just take the $120 and just give that away in charity, and there's no zakat on that at all. Your intention is not sadaqah or zakat because it's not going to be reward for you because it's not your money to begin with. When you earn haram money, the definition of haram money is it's money that's not yours. It doesn't belong to you. So what you do is you give it away. If you give it away, you don't get reward. But if you keep it, you get big sin. So you're not giving it away to earn reward, you're giving it away not to get sin. Yeah.
When you mentioned when you accidentally give it to someone who's ineligible, if you're giving it to family, in-laws, or whatever, how can you determine if they're eligible?
How do you determine if somebody is eligible for zakat? Yeah.
By law, they are. Is there a certain amount that they have to have?
Yeah, so what you're going to do is you're going to see, do they have $14,000? You know, are they above nisab? So not in the idle wealth, right? Not in their house and their clothes and all that. You're going to see, do they have are they eligible to give zakat? If they're not eligible to give zakat, then they're eligible to take zakat. That's the way you look at it. Now, how do you know exactly how much money you have in their bank account? Do you go ask them, hey, how much money do you have? No, you don't need to do that. You don't need to be so blatant and maybe offensive about it. So what you can do is you can try and figure it out, you know, just guess, estimate, know, like, okay, you know what, this person really needs zakat. They have debt, they have this, they have that. You try and estimate. You don't have to be sneaky about it. You don't have to do that much research. But sometimes someone comes to you and asks you for money and you're not feeling comfortable. You have to maybe ask them some questions. Okay, it's okay. But sometimes you feel like you might offend someone, so you don't have to ask so many questions. Yeah.
With Zakat al-Fitr, the people that the vast majority that follow the Hanafi opinion, they say that the Zakat al-Fitr as cash, but the other madhahib say that you have to give it as food staples.
Yeah.
So if you follow the other madhahib, can you postpone the Zakat al-Fitr until you find something?
The question was not about zakatul mal, which we've been talking about. The question is about zakatul fitr, which is due before the Eid, actually Eid prayer, Eid day, depending on kind of like the opinion that you follow. So the question about zakatul fitr, and the question is, it's an interesting question. Some of the scholars have allowed you to pay zakatul fitr in cash, which by the way is how majority of like masjids and majority of institutions in the US still collect cash. Some of them have said, no, it has to be paid in certain food items. So you cannot pay it in cash. So the question is, can you wait until, if you follow that opinion, can you wait and delay and pay later? As long as you do, if you're going to follow that opinion, as long as you've taken care of it before the day of Eid, you're fine.
What if it's after the day?
Then you've really messed up.
Because like over here,
Yeah.
in Southern California, you can't find someone who's like a fuqara masakin, unless you like travel abroad and then.
You know what? If you're dealing with this issue that you are struggling to find someone, at least before the Eid day, give a few dollars, at least give cash. And then you really want to follow that opinion, you can follow that, right? But you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle. So even the Shafi'is, the Malikis, and the Hanbalis who are in the US at this time, the vast majority of them, because they I don't actually remember which madhab say you have to, which ones say you have to give it in food stuff. The Hanafis definitely say you can replace it with cash. I don't remember which madhab say that, but even the ones who say that in the US, in this context, in this time, they say just give it in cash.
So all the madhahib, Hanafi, they agree that zakat al-fitr has to be, given and produced in, the same amount which the Prophet Muhammad, peace and peace be upon him.
Yeah.
The only person or the only madhab, the only sect who says that it has to be produced in cash is only Hanafi.
So the brother is telling us that the only one that says you can give it in cash is the Hanafis. That is classically true. In contemporary times, almost everyone has said it's fine to give in cash. Yeah. So in contemporary times, you have to adapt the fatwa to the location, the context, the time that you're in. No problem if you want to follow the classical opinion. I love following classical opinions myself personally. It's more appealing, but keep in mind that in contemporary times, the vast majority of scholars have allowed giving zakat al-fitr as cash. Was the question here?
How long you can keep the zakat money with us? And the second question, for example, someone has to do surgery or, for example, need money for something reasonable. Can we keep money for this reason? If we can keep for how long? If we cannot keep money, is there any timetable for that?
The question is, how long can you, once your zakat becomes due on you, How quickly must you disperse it? So the vast majority of scholars have actually said that when your due date becomes due, that's actually the last day to pay the zakat. So you should try to pay your zakat, earlier than that. And by the day it becomes due, that's like the last day that you should pay it. Your second question was, what if somebody needs surgery done, something like that? So one of the key elements of zakat is that the zakat should be given to the person who's receiving it without conditions and without constraints. You give them the money. If they say, oh, pay for my surgery, fine, no problem. But if you're saying, hey, I'm only giving you this money so you can use it for your surgery, no, that is not zakat anymore. Zakat cannot be given with conditions and restrictions and saying that this is only for such and such thing. Zakat is given to the person and they choose how they want to spend it. So if you're saying, oh look, I'll pay your tuition for you, I will pay for your surgery for you, whatever, you have to ask them. You have to ask them, hey, I want to give you zakat, like is it okay if I do this? They say, no, just give me the cash, you give them the cash. Because that's one of the conditions of zakat, is that you don't put restrictions on it. Yes?
What if someone that's zakat eligible, right, they need the money, but you know that if you give all the money, they're going to just burn through it. Can you pay in increments?
Yeah, that was why I said you can pay in increments. The question is, what if someone's just not good with money? We all know people who are not good with money, but maybe they're receiving zakat and they're not good with money. You think if you give them all the money, they'll spend it all. So what you do is, in that case, you can set, let's say, I want to give somebody zakat, $1,000 a month, but I know if I gave them for the next year $12,000, they'll just spend it all away. So what I can do is I can put aside $12,000 and say, you know what, this is their money, but I'm going to give them only $1,000 at a time every month. You set it aside and you can give them. That's not a problem, because you know that they're not so good with they might just blow it all away. So you give them as you can. The ideal type of zakat is one that you give where you give them enough money that they can maybe start their own business, they can get a job, they can start something with it, they can do something valuable, and then 12 months from now, they don't need zakat anymore. That's a very ideal type of zakat. Some people, they're disabled, they're old, they won't be able to. So then you give them zakat just on an ongoing basis. It becomes something that you have to give on an ongoing basis. Ideally, zakat gets people out of being eligible the next year. But it's not always possible, so you just give them what's needed. If you want to give it to them on a monthly basis because you think they will just, spend it unwisely, that's not a problem. Don't give zakat. Don't do weird things. Like, let's say your gardener, you pay them $100 a month, okay? And then the gardener is Muslim and they're zakat eligible. You say, you know what? And they ask for a raise. You say, instead of a raise, what if I give them $100 a month and I give them $20 in zakat? That's very tricky, because now this is something you're giving them something and you're getting personal benefit out of it. When you start mixing benefit with wages, like things like that with zakat, you're making a mess. So don't get into that situation. Give them what they're properly due, okay? And make sure you're not like treating it as like a wage replacement or something like that. Any other questions? Yeah.
If they choose that, if I have money or if I have something valuable, I will sell it and I will do my surgery or I will do a business. It's their choice. So our zakat will be okay. We give them if they.
When you give them the cash, as long as they're below nisab, they can take the zakat. What they do with it, it's completely up to them, right? Now, if you watch what they do with it this year, and you see that it's not smart, maybe next year you give your zakat to someone else. Maybe you're like, yeah, this is not the best use of zakat money, so maybe you find someone else to give it to. But your zakat is taken care of, like when you give it. We give it in the way of Allah, and then we don't have control over it, right? We lose control over it. Okay, I think we'll end here, inshallah. And if you have any other questions, please reach out to me. Subhanakallah wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum.